Hey everybody, how you doing? Welcome back to Incidental to Who. Today we're going to be taking a look at the second series of the original Doctor Who, starring, of course, William Hartnell. And this series ran from, let's see, 19... from October 31st, 1964 to July 24th, 1965. So, the main cast returned. William Hartnell as the Doctor, William Russell as Ian Chesterton, and Jackie Hill as Barbara Wright, school teachers, Carol Ann Ford as the Doctor's granddaughter Susan, and Verity Lambert returned as the series producer. David Whitaker returned as the series script editor. The script editor is someone who, basically oversees the writing of the stories. A lot of great names came up in this job later on. Robert Holmes, Eric Sayward, things like that in the 70s and 80s. But right now we're still in 1964 and 1965. So, let's see. We're looking at basically my DVD collection. Incidental to Who because... this is just incidental material. This, if you're a fan, like I said, I believe in the first video, if you're a fan, then maybe you probably know already, you already probably know this stuff, and if you don't, well, you don't give a damn. But it's just maybe an interesting way to rediscover the good Doctor. So we will start out with, the first 8 stories were in, sorry, I have some notes here. Can't remember everything, especially dates. Bad with dates. But the first series had the first 8 episodes. Series 9 started with Planet of Giants. We see there. This was a 3-episode serial that was written by Lewis Marks and directed by Mervyn Pinfield. The plot real fast, they land in present-day England, which is where they've been trying to go the whole time, but the problem is it's an incredible shrinking man kind of thing. They're an inch tall, the TARDIS crew, the Doctor, Susan, Ian, and Barbara, and they get embroiled in, all kinds of mystery, and crazy things happen. An interesting thing about this is it's 3 episodes, not 4, although it was originally written as 4 episodes, and the 4th episode was directed by Douglas Camfield, who directed a lot of interesting, great serials throughout the 60s and 70s of Doctor Who. But and they go into that here. It was consolidated into 3 episodes. So what we have here, we have the audio commentary. The audio commentary is moderated by Mark Ayres, and the DVD came out in 2012, and they make mention of the fact that they made this a more of a technical commentary than an actor, director commentary. They have people like the vision mixer, the special sounds creator, makeup supervisor, floor assistant, and they quite literally said it was because other than the people, Barbara, Jackie Hill passed away a long time ago, unfortunately, but other than Ian Russell and Carol Ann Ford, none of the main cast is still alive. So they made it a technical commentary, because those are the people who are still alive, and hopefully that's of interest to some people. They also go into episode 3 and 4 reconstruction. You can view this as the original, as it aired in 1964, as the original 3 episodes, or you can view the reconstructed episodes 3 and 4, which run 28 and 24 minutes respectively. And they go into how that reconstruction was done. They used actors to play the parts of the Doctor and Barbara and some other people, and they brought back William Russell as Ian and Carol Ann Ford as Susan, and they reconstructed the missing scenes to make it a full 4-episode serial. Another special feature is called Suddenly Susan. It's a 15-minute interview with Carol Ann Ford. The Lambert tapes, a 14-minute interview with Verity Lambert, the first producer of Doctor Who. A photo gallery. I mentioned in the first one, many of these have photo galleries and PDF materials for your Adobe, for your Mac or PC. Radio Times listings. The Radio Times is the British equivalent of the TV Guide, so the original TV Guide, Radio Times listings, and some prop design plans, along with the production note subtitle option, which is really cool. Again, that's, instead of the subtitles running across the bottom of the screen, they run just different facts and figures about this specific show. So, Series 9, or Series 2 rather, but Story 9 was the 3-episode Planet of Giants. Again, all my discs are Region 1. Story 10 is The Dalek Invasion of Earth, which is 2 discs, because there's a hell of a lot of stuff on here, and this is a great story. This is the first story to make extensive use of location footage. There was location footage on film used in the Reign of Terror, but this was the first story to make extensive use of it. And in this story, the Dalek Invasion of Earth, it's quite literally that. It's the second Dalek story. In the first season, we go to Skaro and see the Daleks. In this one, the Daleks come to us, and they invade London in the year 2164, which is 200 years in the future from when this show came out. 1964, obviously, so 2164 AD. They also made a movie of this with Peter Cushing and called it Dalek Invasion of Earth 2150 AD, I believe. I don't know why they changed it by 14 years, but they did. But check out that movie, that's cool, with Peter Cushing. But this is my favorite story of the season, perhaps my favorite William Hartnell story. At the end, Susan leaves, which marks the first change we have in the TARDIS crew. Susan decides to stay with the rebels. You see the Daleks have invaded Earth, and of course a rebel force has sprung up to fight the Daleks off of Earth. And as soon as the Doctor, Ian, Barbara, and Susan can convince the rebels that they are willing to help, they do that, and this is a 6-episode serial, ran from November 21st to December 26, 1964, and written by Terry Nation, who wrote most of the Dalek serials in the 60s and 70s, directed by Richard Martin, who directed most of the Dalek serials in the 60s, as well as some other great ones. So then we go to special features. The commentary here is Carol Ann Ford, William Russell, Verity Lambert, Richard Martin. So you have Ian, Susan, the producer, the director, and moderated by Gary Russell, who I mentioned in the first Incidental to Who, is listed as a Doctor Who expert, but he's just one of these guys. He's a writer for Doctor Who. He's written novels and such. There's some great featurettes. Let's see what we have. There's featurettes on the making of, the design of, a featurette on Dalek voices, a featurette on the locations used. There's some great locations. Featurettes on the camera script. There's 2 Easter eggs here. Search for them. They're funny. They're little comedy skits. So, yeah, the Dalek Invasion of Earth. I'm trying to make these videos a little bit quicker, but I could go on and on about the plot. Yeah, nearly wiped out by storm and plague, the Earth's population has been commandeered by the Daleks into huge mining operations. Some humans have been transformed into Robo-Men, which are kind of almost a precursor to the Cybermen, but, cybernetically changed people, that are forced to work for Daleks. And there's some great shots there. The Daleks across the River Thames, and we see them crossing the bridge with Big Ben in the background. Really great story, 6 episodes. So that's number 10. Stories number 11 and 12 come together. The Rescue and the Romans. Story number 11 is The Rescue. It's a short 2-episode serial, which is basically really just an excuse, I think. It's not a great story, but it introduces the Doctor's newest companion, Vicky, who basically is a replacement for Susan. She's played by Maureen O'Brien, and let's see. It was broadcast from, just over 2 weeks, January 2nd to January 9th, 1965, so the first story of 65. Written by script editor David Whittaker, and directed by Christopher Barry, who was another famous Doctor Who director of the 60s and 70s. Actually, David Whittaker was the outgoing script editor, and it started a tradition of the outgoing script editor writing the first serial after he left. Dennis Spooner took over as the script editor, but David Whittaker wrote The Rescue. The TARDIS crew, the Doctor, now just the Doctor, Ian, and Barbara, land on the planet Dido. I get that confused because there is a future companion named Dodo, but we'll get to that in a future season. But they land on the planet Dido, and they discover a crashed spaceship. The only survivors are an older man and a younger girl. The younger girl turns out to be Vicky, and she decides to get the hell out of there at the end and leave with the Doctor, Ian, and Barbara. Special features. The audio commentary is by William Russell, who played Ian, the director Christopher Barry, and designer Raymond Cusick, who designed a lot of the early Doctor Who's. It's moderated by Toby Hadoke, who I mentioned. If you don't know who he is, check out Incidental to Who, Volume 1, and he's a real funny cat. Just a photo gallery and a PDF of Raymond Cusick's original design. Then we have The Romans, 4 episodes, running from January 16th to February 6th, 1965, written by Dennis Spooner and directed again by Christopher Barry. So that's 2 in a row, directed by Christopher Barry. Here's the back, by the way, of The Rescue and The Romans. We see The Romans has quite a bit more special features, as it's 4 episodes. We're in 64 AD Italy. They get tangled up with Emperor Nero. The Doctor is mistaken for a musician, forced to perform for the Emperor, Nero and his fiddle. Ian and Barbara are taken into slavery. Really good extras here. The audio commentary is by William Russell, who played Ian. A couple different actors who played Centurions, I believe. Director Christopher Barry, and once again moderated by Toby Hadoke. Really cool making of 34-minute documentary called What Has the Romans Ever Done for Us? That's a play on if you've ever seen Monty Python and the Life of Brian. What have the Romans ever done for us? Well, the aqueducts. Well, this and that, and I can't do it justice, but it's a play on Monty Python and the Life of Brian, which you should check out if you're not a Python fan. If you are, you know better than I probably what I'm talking about. Roma Parva, on the set model, just a short 2-minute feature. Dennis Spooner, a featurette on him, a 17-minute featurette on him writing for Doctor Who. And then the first edition of Girls, Girls, Girls. This covers the 1960s. There's one for the 60s, one for the 70s, one for the 80s. The one for the 60s shows up on the disc for the Romans. It just says Who Girls Retrospective, 17 minutes. But what they do is they basically go through all the companions female companions of the 1960s. And they talk about the style, the mini skirts. A lot of hot girls. A lot of hot girls in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. A lot of hot girls have been Doctor Who companions. And that continues to this day. Not so much a fan of Clara, but I really did like Billie Piper and Freema, who played Martha, and even Catherine Tate, for a lady in her 40s, was pretty attractive. But in the 60s, we had, I actually wrote them down, we had Susan, Barbara, Vicky, Katarina, Sarah Kingdom, Dodo, Polly, Victoria, and Zoe. So they go through all that, and that covers the first two Doctors, Hartnell and Troughton. So those are stories 11 and 12, The Rescue and the Romans. 2 episodes and 4 episodes. Story number 13 is 6 episodes, broadcast originally from February 13th to March 20th. Hey, that's my birthday, March 20th. I was born, only 12 years later. February 13th to March 20th, 1965. Written by Bill Strutton and directed once again by Richard Martin. You see, they kept going back to the same well of directors. Richard Martin, Dougie Camfield, Christopher Barry. And it's called The Web Planet, where we're introduced to the Zarbi and the Menoptera. The war of the Zarbi versus the Menoptera. Kind of bee-looking characters there. And a mysterious force pulls the TARDIS off course, stranding the Dr. Ian, Barbara, and Vicky on the alien world of Vortis. A fierce battle is raging between the moth-like Menoptera and the giant insects known as the Zarbi. But what is the dark secret that hides at the center of the Zarbi's lair? Well, it takes 6 episodes to find out, and in my opinion, this one is a little bit boring. But it's part of the canon, and I love William Hartnell, and it's still a fun watch. It's a really fun watch, and there are extensive special features. So just take a quick look. The commentary, again, William Russell, Martin Jarvis, producer Verity Lambert, and director Richard Martin. Tales of Aesop, a 37-minute making-of documentary. The Lair of the Zarbi Supremo. This is interesting. The Doctor Who Annual is basically that, an annual magazine that comes out every year, and they've resurrected it. You can get the Doctor Who Annual again every year now. The latest one has Peter Capaldi on the cover, obviously. But they always put interesting stuff. They put fiction in there. And the very first Doctor Who Annual featured a short story called The Lair of the Zarbi Supremo. And William Russell reads it to us. So we basically get a free 56-minute short mini little audio book here, read by William Russell, who played Ian. There's a PC-ROM feature, the entire 1965 Doctor Who Annual. So pop it in your DVD-ROM drive, and you can see the entire 1965 Doctor Who Annual, the first one. Spanish soundtrack option on episode 6. That's kind of random. Give a Show. 1960s Doctor Who film strip based on The Web Planet. Production notes, photo gallery, digitally remastered, blah, blah, blah. So, that is episode 13. Episode 14, once again, I am empty-handed. See Incidental to Who 1 for my rant on all the missing episodes. But it's The Crusade. Episode 14 is The Crusade. 4 episodes, March 27th to April 17th. Written by, again, David Whittaker, and directed again by Douglas Camfield. We're in 12th century Palestine. King Richard, the Doctor, and Vicky are meant to be burnt at the stake as sorcerers. Again, this is another missing story, unfortunately. So we will move on because this is about the DVDs. To stories 15 and 16, again packaged together, The Space Museum and The Chase. We see the Daleks there, so we know they come in at some point. This is obviously 2 discs. Nope, 3. There's a lot in here. The Space Museum is 1 disc, and then The Chase is a 2-disc set. So this is 3 discs. So this is great. So we start out with Story 15, The Space Museum, broadcast April 24 to May 15th, 1965. Directed by Glenn Jones, written by Glenn Jones, and directed by Mervyn Pinfield. 4 episodes. The crew lands on the planet Zeros, which has been turned into a museum by the warlike Morocks. There's all kinds of exhibits, but there's exhibits of the Daleks, and it's kind of a way to show off some of the props of Doctor Who. They literally put them into a museum. But the people who run the museum, they don't do anything. No one comes to this museum. It's rather a strange, desolate kind of place. And the Doctor and crew have to kind of figure out what the hell is going on there. But a lot of people slag off the Space Museum, but when I was young, I had the Target novelization, and I read it, and I really loved it, and that was many years before I ever saw it. The first time I ever saw it, actually, was when I bought this DVD, when it came out in 2010. So I had read the book maybe 20 years or more before I ever saw it. The special features on the Space Museum, the audio commentary here. Again, William Russell, Maureen O'Brien, who played Vicky, writer Glenn Jones, moderated by Peter Purves, who played Stephen, who we'll get to very shortly. Defending the Museum, a reevaluation by Robert Shearman, who is a writer who wrote for the Doctor Who 2005 series, I believe, and has written Doctor Who novels. He goes into reasons why people slag off, like I said, the Space Museum, but why it's worthy of a second look. My Grandfather the Doctor, a 10-minute interview with Jessica Carney, not Susan Foreman, but the Doctor's real granddaughter, William Hartnell's real granddaughter, Jessica Carney. There's an interview with her about what it was like growing up as the granddaughter of the very first Doctor Who. So that's really cool. A spoof with Christopher Green as Ida Barr, 14 minutes, called Holiday for the Doctor, and a photo gallery. That brings us to second to the last of the season, story number 16, The Chase. And that is placed over 2 discs. A lot of content. 6 episodes, broadcast from May 22nd to July 26th. Another Dalek story, so again written by Terry Nation. The Chase refers to the Daleks chasing the Doctor and crew all through space and all through time because they are damn determined to bring down the Doctor. So it's The Chase. Written by Terry Nation, like I said, because he wrote all the Dalek stories in the 60s and the 70s. And directed again by Richard Martin, who has directed every Dalek episode so far. Here we are introduced to another new crew member, Stephen. In one of the first few episodes, Peter Purves, is it Purvis or Purves? P-U-R-V-E-S. Purves doesn't sound right, but Purvis, that doesn't sound right either. But good old Peter, he became a Blue Peter host later on, and we know about the Doctor Who show's association with the Blue Peter show. He plays an American tourist in one episode, but by the end we see him as Stephen. And that comes into play because after the 6 episodes are done, and the Doctor and Ian and Barbara and Vicky have eluded the Daleks finally through 6 episodes, he's finally able to bring Ian and Barbara back to their present-day Earth, and they are happy to be home. They're sad to leave the Doctor, but they're happy to be home, so we get another cast change. As Ian and Barbara leave, Vicky stays, and Stephen joins. So the crew now is the Doctor, Vicky, and Stephen by the end of The Chase. And it's really like 6 episodes. The chase. It reminds me really of one of those old-fashioned serials. It's almost a different story every week. They meet all kinds of people, all kinds of places, because of course they're traveling through 6 episodes of space and time. They're just going here, there, and everywhere, being chased everywhere by the Daleks. So it's pretty cool. So the special features. The audio commentary here by actors Maureen O'Brien, William Russell, Peter Purvis, and director Richard Martin, which of course is Vicky, Ian, Stephen, and the director. Cusick in Cardiff. Dalek designer Raymond Cusick visits the new series studios, which is pretty interesting because that's the guy who Raymond Cusick, originally designed the Daleks. What the Daleks look like, we can chalk it up to that guy Raymond Cusick, and he visits the new Doctor Who sets. This came out in 2010, so David Tennant was the Doctor, but it's still fairly recent, 4 or 5 years ago. And, he's kind of blown away by the difference in how the show is filmed. The Thrill of the Chase, a 10-minute making of, which is rather short. Last Stop White City, the fictional story of school teachers Barbara Wright and Ian Chesterton, that's 13 minutes. Daleks Beyond the Screen, which is a really cool 22-minute retrospective on Dalek merchandise throughout, since the beginning of Doctor Who. A lot of cool Dalek merchandise is shown and talked about. Let's see. Shawcraft, the original Monster Makers. It's a 17-minute documentary on the makers of many of the props and models for the early Doctor Who's in the 60s. Follow That Dalek, 8mm amateur film, 12 minutes. There's Give Us Show slides, 16 stories of slides, almost like Viewmaster, if you remember the Viewmaster, but they're slides, that lasts 12 minutes. Photo gallery, Radio Times listings, production notes, subtitles. So that is stories 15, 16, the Space Museum, and the Chase. 1 disc for the Space Museum, 2 for the Chase. That brings us to our final story of episode 2 of season 2, series 2, story number 17, The Time Meddler. Broadcast, 4 episodes, broadcast July 3rd to July 24th, 1965, written by Dennis Spooner and directed by Douglas Canfield. It's the first full story with the new crew, which of course is the Doctor, William Hartnell as the Doctor, Peter Purvis as Stephen, and Maureen O'Brien as Vicky. Donald Tosh here takes over from Dennis Spooner as the script editor. So in 2 seasons, we've had 3 script editors. We've had David Whittaker, Dennis Spooner, and Donald Tosh. Verity Lambert still is our original producer. She remains. What else is there to say? The TARDIS lands on the Northumbrian coast. They believe they've arrived in the 11th century, but there's some anachronistic stuff. There's a watch that doesn't quite fit into the 11th century. So we see there's the meddling monk, who is the first Time Lord we ever meet, who's not the Doctor. And he's just that. He's a monk who meddles in time. We're in the Battle of Hastings. There's a crazy monastery. Is he a Time Lord? Is he not? Comment down below, because some people think he is, some people think he isn't. I'm not sure if it's ever been actually stated. I know that in 1965 that there was no such thing as Time Lords, so it's all conjecture on the part. Conjecture, woo, on the part of the fans. We're getting towards half an hour, sorry. Okay, so audio commentary is by the producer Verity Lambert, Peter Purvis, who played Stephen, and new story editor Donald Tosh, and designer Barry Newberry, moderated by Clayton Hickman. Unfortunately, this came out in 2008, right around the time Verity Lambert, the first producer, died. So there's a very respectful obituary, a nice essay you can read looking back at the career of one of Doctor Who's co-creators, a wonderful lady. Without her, we would not have had Doctor Who. She really believed in it in the beginning. She really fought for it, and it was really her, Sidney Newman, and a couple other people. It was really her vision, along with those other few people, who brought this great show to life, who 52 years later now, 51 and a half years later, is still going strong and still making new fans every day. So, God bless Verity Lambert. So there's a great obituary there. Well, that's stupid. Obituaries are never great, but there's a respectful and nice, just say nice, obituary. Let's see. There's a lost 12 seconds. A small part of episode 4 is still missing, and this short item uses an off-air recording and the original script to place the missing 12 seconds in context. See, they do a good job on these, man. There's 12 seconds missing, and they'll tell you all about it. The Restoration, a 5-minute featurette showing how they restored it. A look back at the First Doctor's colorful comic strip adventures called Stripped for Action, The First Doctor. They started doing these here, and they have one for all 7 Doctors, actually one for all 8 Doctors. They've even included the 8th Doctor, and they have one for the Daleks on a different disc, I believe. And ever since the mid-60s, the Doctor has appeared in comic books, comic strips, and this is the first installment of the series Stripped for Action, which talks all about Doctor Who comics. Originally it started as comic strips, now we have Doctor Who comic books, but it all started here in the 60s, and this goes over the First Doctor in comic form, and that is, 14 minutes. There's a nice photo gallery of Verity Lambert, the usual DVD-ROM features, radio times listings, production notes, subtitle options, another photo gallery, digitally remastered picture and sound quality, and that takes us to July 24th, 1965. We have now looked incidentally to Who at the first 2 series. I don't know. Sorry it's taken so long to record the second one, but, life gets in the way and other things, and I did want to go back and rewatch them, so I could at least try to be a little more concise with this video, although I'm not sure I've succeeded. But hopefully, if you're wavering about buying these DVDs, hopefully this look at the special features has convinced you that they are worth it. And if you can buy them on sale, if you can get them used, if you can trade for them, look for them at pawn shops. Amazon sometimes has some great prices. Pick them up. You won't be disappointed. We'll see you next time on Incidental to Who, where we'll start with September 11th, 1965, with the Series 3 opener, Galaxy 4, which does not exist. Well, it kind of does. We'll explain all that in Incidental to Who, Series 3. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.